no content or dialogue between the players after the game, but we have a lot of content and dialogue ahead here in our Coinbase Rapid Recap, where we review the entire game. For those of you who just tuned in, we know there are a lot of you because we are at peak viewership right now. So many of you are like, well, I got up a little bit late on a Sunday. We hope you had a great Saturday night. Hope you partied hard and you showed up now. And we had another Spanish game. A lot of the pregame fodder was around the topic of will Jan play 8H3 again, or Erwin Lamy correctly predicting that we would not see that with the move 8A4. Bobby.
Yeah, Jan, maybe he should have tried to find something in H3, but it's of course difficult to give advice from the sidelines. Obviously, they're going much deeper into it.
Yeah.
They didn't find any ideas, or they were maybe worried that after H3, Magnus will play a different line and be well prepared in that.
For those who forgot, H3 was the move order in game one, which saw Magnus's pawn sacrifice, knight A5, a rare line, but one that gave us a lot of interesting stuff to talk about here. Also, as we said, Jan plays A4. Sorry.
Also, there is one other thing which is possible, which is that sometimes in a match, you need time to find ideas. And he's giving his seconds more time to maybe try to find something after knight A5.
Yeah.
And so we shouldn't rule out the possibility that we will see something like this again in a later game.
Okay.
The interesting thing, of course, and we suspected this, is that Magnus is sticking to his openings. He believes in the marshal. He's obviously prepared it extremely deeply, and I feel it's a good choice because he is a natural marshal player. He's always felt comfortable in these positions.
Yep.
And yeah, he played a rare move here, rook e8, but it was obviously deeply checked by him and his team.
Okay. Yeah, rook e8 is a rare move, but still theory and was checked. We mentioned that after knight f1, h6, and then bishop d2, this position had been played both by Kasparov versus Tkachev in 2001, and then again by Ho Yifan in 2009. But neither of those games had really any real relevance here, Robert. But tell everybody what the whole idea of bishop d2 was.
Yeah, black wants to claim space by playing knight to a5, attacking the bishop on b3, following that up with c7 to c5 to clamp down on the center, on the d4 square, open the queen up on that diagonal as well. But bishop d2 says, not so fast. You cannot get active. As we saw in the next few moves here, it was about shuffling, both players trying to find their footing in the position until finally Jan decided to strike with this move c4.
And Fabi called it after bishop d2, not only the point you just highlighted, that it stops knight a5, but pointed out the unique idea that c4 was coming. And sure enough, we had it on the board. When it first meets the eye, this feels anti-positional for white because of the things pointed out. That did have some storyline in the game, the weak pawns, but overall, as Robert said, the main point bringing the knight to c4 is d5 is very hard to get now, right, Fabi?
Yeah, it's a very interesting opening discussion. And Magnus played knight c6, so he played it rather quickly. He knew about this idea. It looks funny at first sight because you just came from there.
We'll highlight the path of the pony to show a little awkward.
Yeah, it looks very strange. You wouldn't really come up with this move instantly. It wouldn't be one of your first candidate moves, let's say. But the position changed. White had concrete threats, knight a5 and potentially knight takes e5. So black just reacted to that. I was kind of wondering after rook c1, a5, which happened in the game. I had this thought before we went to break, and then a bunch of moves happened, so I didn't get to share it. But I was wondering about the move knight e3. Sort of funny mirror of black's idea. The knight coming from where it just went from, with the idea now that the pawn on a5 created weakness on b5, and maybe the bishop can sneak in bishop c4 and bishop to b5. I don't know if this is a good move, but it was briefly seemed interesting to me.
Fabi and I quickly talked about it during one of the breaks, and we were just trying to dissect it because white tries to go in the light squares, and if black plays knight b4 as a way to get active himself, there's problems with this as well because you might have to play c5 at some point. All those light squares, d5, b5, c4, can be whites for the taking. Okay,
well, maybe that'll prove interesting. We'll make note of that, everybody, that if we see this line again, perhaps Fabi's idea is one that resurfaces. But a5, bishop c3 was played, and then bishop to c8. We had speculated an interesting approach of queen b8, queen a7, and Magnus was showing body language, remember, at the board, that we weren't sure yet how well prepared he was. But as soon as he played bishop c8, and we saw that this forcing exchange was met by bishop e6, we were already, unfortunately, as commentators, kind of sensing the foregone conclusion here, right? Magnus was prepared. d5 is going to be very hard to stop. Anything else white could have done here, Fabi, than the forcing lines we saw ahead?
Yeah, my feeling is, and Magnus was taking time, so we can't say for sure, but my feeling is that if you play bishop c8 over the board, because it feels like a rather unusual move when white is obviously preparing d4 to take so much time to reroute the bishop that it doesn't really come to mind so easily, and that Hebo played it and it turned out to be the top engine line, as we found out, suggests that he knew about this in advance. Yeah. And the only thing is, after h3, c6, because he could have played d5 and probably equalized easily with that, I think this is already immediately equal. Playing c6 maybe open up some possibilities for white to try something besides what he tried. But it's probably more or less within equal bounds anyway.
Well, Jan played bishop c2. You say try something he didn't try. Is there something else you would suggest here?
Well, we were looking at queen d3 in similar positions, and I'm sort of wondering if queen d3 here. But black anyway achieves d5, so maybe it's very difficult to stop this idea. It feels like white has some pressure in the center, but d5 is such a powerful resource, kicking that knight away, and that pin on the knight of bishop c4 and b3 is pretty uncomfortable for white. So maybe he had nothing better than what we saw in the game, a simplification and a very drawish endgame.
Well, after d5 and e5, we had the good point made by Robert that this whole thing with dc4 and ef6, as we saw, was forced because on knight d7, knight d6, obviously you can't take it with the bishop. You don't want to take it and open up the dark square diagonal, but even at c5, hitting the queen doesn't help, as the queen can retreat to a new diagonal, and things are still good for white. So it indeed was a forced and semi-foregone conclusion. Last little bit of instruction, right, educational stuff on the game was this whole point of bishop to b4. Was there any other way that, because what happened in the game, guys, was the bishops were traded on c3, which took away the weakness of b2. b2 was really key if black has any chances. Any other way Magnus could play this besides the idea of bishop b4 and exchanging? Robert, or Fabi, or you know what, LOL, whoever wants to go.
After you.
I think that we would most likely both say a very similar thing, which is that the bishop on c3 is too powerful a piece to remain there. Okay. Black has to get rid of it. The bishop on c3 both is a defensive piece, defending b2, and also an attacking piece. It attacks a5.
But let me play devil's advocate to the idea you guys were pointing out in real time. What if you take it? With the idea being that if you take, you try to trade the bishops over here. Is white just retreating back anyway?
Well, in this specific case, the rook is hanging. Okay. Otherwise, that would probably be an excellent way for black to play. Okay. But black needs to take time to move the rook, and he can do that with, for example, rook d to b, rook d7.
And you could get checkmated with rook e3 to g3.
A very big problem with this is rook e3, problem. And you might still be able to escape because you can stop rook g3 with bishop d6, but not what you want for sure.
Okay, so there really was no other way, as you said. The bishop on c3 too powerful. Bishop b4 was forced for Magnus, Robert. Yeah,
and Jan was wise just to keep the bishop there, because at some point black's going to have to take, otherwise you're not going to make any progress. And what progress is made, you've opened files, but the rooks came off so quickly that even though white has a pass pawn potential, it can't go anywhere because it's a bishop. You can't control the dark squares of the light square bishop. So Magnus was able to bring his king to the center on a dark square and make sure that the game just petered out.
Yeah, pointing out bishops are limited, and that's exactly the problem for white here, using a 3-on-2 majority that we've highlighted. Not really possible because the black king will dominate and control progress on the dark squares. Exactly what happened, and there we have it, petering it out and letting Fabi give his final thoughts here. That this was, I guess, a game where all the content was in the prep. Yeah, it's mainly a win for Magnus because his preparation really held up, and that will make Jan try to search for something that he can put pressure on Magnus in the remaining games. Okay. But that's not going to be easy. I think this was a good opening choice from Magnus' side. All right, well, that was our Coinbase Rapid Recap. Thank you so much. For those of you watching this live on Twitch, remember that they are available daily at our YouTube channel. In case you didn't see, our partners at Coinbase are sponsoring Chess.com's coverage of the 2021 FIDE World Championship, and boy, are we thankful. Whether you're an experienced trader, been doing this for years, or just thinking about making your first crypto purchase, Coinbase is the place to go. Visit Coinbase.com/chess and get $5 in free Bitcoin when you sign up and verify your account today.